lot of people wonder how I create these things, and generally, if it's something that's an animal or a monster of some sort, I always start with the head. Once you have the head locked down, then I can work to scale the body off the head and that type of thing. So the very first thing I did was to create this this widened shape of his cheek by doing this inside panel and the upper inside panel, which gave him the open mouth. And then from the open mouth, I could design the gums to put his teeth on, and to build the arch of his head. So once I had that basic shape of his mouth, I'd use just strips of flat bar, and I would use it as a wire frame, and I'd wire frame the basic shape of him so I had that structure. And then once I did that, I could take paper and make paper templates off the wire framing, which would allow me to template all the metal and start shaping the head basically from the inside out is how it works. And then once I started on a table, and once this head got big enough, and as you can see it's pretty big, I had to transfer it from the table to a car rotisserie. And the car rotisserie is designed to hold a car when you're working on it, doing metal work and auto body and paint, and rotate the car using a big frame. And that worked awesome for the head. So I mounted the head to a rotisserie, and then that allowed me to be able to turn the head and rotate it to work on it, do the welding, do the fabrication. And he must have been on the rotisserie for almost a year. It took me 6 or 7 months just to build the head. So the head was the first thing that was built, and the last thing that was built was his tongue. I wasn't sure where I wanted to place the tongue and how I wanted it to look in there, but I wanted it to be visible. I had originally placed the tongue down in the bottom of the mouth just to give him some texture and show that he had a tongue. But it just kind of disappeared in there with all the chrome and shininess. So I elevated the tongue up a little bit and just made it a little more visible so you can see the tongue in his mouth. And I think it's a great last finishing touch on it. So. Each tooth is made in 2 pieces. So we did a template in paper of the size of tooth. As you can see, all the teeth are slightly different in sizes. I just cut a triangle template for a tooth, laid it out on stainless and cut the stainless. And then I used a power hammer. So my old power hammer hammers the metal and hammers all the dents in it. And you hammer it until it's almost smooth. And then I put those hammer marks in a plenishing hammer, and the plenishing hammer kind of gives it just a softer finish and smooths it out quite a bit. And then I make a mirror image of that. Then I tack the 2 pieces together and weld them all the way around. So this is actually where the weld was, all the way around the tooth. And then we grind off the tooth and do all the finishing work and polish all the scratches off, and then eventually polish the whole tooth to a mirror finish before welding it in. So each tooth, I think, probably a couple of hours work on each tooth, maybe more than that, on getting started and figuring out how I wanted to shape them and make them, and then the time-consuming job of fitting them and getting them all to uniformly look like teeth, and it's worth it in the end. You do all that work, and it looks so good and so natural when you see it in the end, that one of the best features for me is the teeth in his mouth. And of course a T-Rex has to have badass teeth. So one of the most important parts and challenging parts of building a big T-Rex like this is the eyes. The eyes are the most important part of any animal. If you're building an animal, especially a predatory animal, you want those eyes to be fixed on a subject, and you want the realism and life character to come out in the eyes. And so that's really important on any of the projects that I do. I always really try to focus on the eyes and make sure the eyes are focused, so they're kind of working together there. This was I believe they're stainless caps, so they're stamped stainless caps that you can buy. They're industrial caps that I grind down and polish, and they're like a half sphere that you can buy for the industrial applications, stainless steel fence posts, stainless steel pipe caps, that type of thing. So I try to find those for the eyes if they're a full sphere, and so that's what I used for the eyes. And then I shaped round bar around the eyes and shaped round bar to make the shape of the eye and the eyelids and that type of thing. I just use 1/4 inch round bar and shape it all. And then once I have all of those layers figured out, then I'll use paper and I'll template for the eyelids and for the layering that's around the eyes. And then I also stand in front of the face and I work back and forth and I try to make sure everything is symmetrical and you know, kind of staring at you from the front of it. I've left the welds, as you can see, you know, the welds are everywhere, and you know, you could take it to that next level and, you know, spend months and months and months grinding and polishing all the welds completely off. One of the other factors is this head is 23 feet in the air, and when you're 23 feet away and you know, visibility wise, you know, generally nobody's even up to it. It's on private property, so you're witnessing it from an even further perspective. Nobody even sees those little details unless you're up close working on it. So those are things that I personally have to let go, because I want to just do all the finest and finest of details, and I know Michelle's the same way. But you have to understand that you know, you don't have to do those fine details because they're not visible in the overall subject. So that's been a real challenge. Well, joining the head so this was basically just a frame that I had engineered to hold everything on. So it's just in rings made out of angle iron rings and angle iron straight pieces, joining all the rings in sections. So there's a ring here, a ring here, a ring here, a ring here, and a ring at the back where it'll join. And so just a big structural frame, and we lifted the head up with a forklift and attached it to the frame, and then we hung it off this gantry crane. And the gantry crane was used just to support everything, keep it off the ground, and allow us to be able to work on it and start templating all the skin and making all the skin pieces and everything. And I had lots of ideas. When you're building something this big, you know, T-Rexes can have really wrinkly skin underneath their neck, and they can have big jowls hanging down. And we ended up doing just a different finish. So we have the hammered bumps and the spikes, well, not spikes, but the hammered bump finish over all the stainless. And I wanted to give it that impression of, like, you know, that wrinkly neck impression. So we ended up hammering long beads into the stainless and lining everything up, making sure that each panel was carefully lined up so it looked like it was all one long bead for wrinkles in the neck. And that's how we approached this part of it. So I think it turned out well, and it gives an added texture to the sculpture that separates the neck from the rest of the skin and the body. So behind me is the main structure of the T-Rex. So this is the main foundation that holds the T-Rex together, gives him his strength to stand up, and the foundation for installation. So if you come back here, I'll show you. Starting at the bottom here with the 1/2 inch plate. So this is 1.5 inch stainless plate. It's structural plate, super thick, as you can see, super heavy, and super expensive. So these 2 feet were about $5,000 each by the time you bought the material and cut the shape of the feet out in them. And then we gusseted them onto 12 inch stainless pipe. So that pipe is 1/2 inch thick, 12 inches of stainless, and it joins and goes up the leg inside, and then it actually goes across to the other leg and joins them at the hips, and then extends forward and back inside the body to build all the supports, to support all the rings that we make the skin and the legs out of. So the legs, again, are the same technique. I make rings and join the rings to the pipe sticking out, so there's just a series of different size rings coming off the legs, and that allows us to shape the paper to those rings and then transfer that paper onto the metal and start shaping all the metal panels. So one of the challenges is trying to incorporate a smooth look, but not so smooth that it just looks like a big barrel. You want to have the shape of the legs, and adding calf muscles and kneecaps and, you know, thigh muscles, and to give it that subtle look that you see those muscles without really overdeveloping those muscles in the sculpture and making them too proud or too detailed. And that was really challenging. You know, just like the neck that we were talking about, We did long hammer finishes to give the belly a different appearance and a smoother appearance than the rest of the skin on the T-Rex. We did hammer dimpling, and you can see on the body they're much larger than, say, on the head or the neck. These dimples are much larger to you know, kind of taper from the body down to the head or down to the tail. It gives it that natural skin look when you see the multiple sizes and different sizes of texture that we use. So that was really key and challenging in making this. The other challenge is when you're working with stainless, you know, stainless likes to shrink and cave in when you're welding it and putting heat into it, and making the seams kind of in areas where you want those hollows to go that would outline muscles and different shapes that the T-Rex has. So I tried to do that. A lot of the seams that you see on the T-Rex were designed specifically to be there to give it kind of a dip or a hollow to show different textures of the muscles and the skin. So the tail was designed in a series of rings the same way I designed the body. So when you see the back of the body where the tail joins, that's a big ring with mounting plates. That ring has a matching ring that was used to start the tail. So they sandwich together. This ring is exactly the same size as the mounting ring on the body, which allows these two pieces to bolt together and to line up. And so inside you can see that there's all the rings that I've created and enjoined with angle iron, which makes a really strong structure inside. It's kind of like when you're building a bridge or anything that's telescoping, you want to have it all triangulated and bridged together, which makes it a lightweight, strong piece. So the tail I tried to make as light as possible just by skinning it in sheet metal, using a light frame structure inside, yet super strong. And then same thing, so we do the rings, we do the paper templating, we get our stainless steel pieces from the paper templating, and then we do all the dimpling and hammering and start, you know, welding them on and doing that shape. So we did the side skins first. We left the belly open because it has a different texture, and then we left the top open because the top has what I call like a cap, which was the backbone. So this runs all the way down the length from starting at the head all the way down the back and then all the way down the tail, has this textured backbone, which was done smaller but similar to the belly, and it allows to separate the skin and the textures of the T-Rex and giving it a backbone which has a different look than the rest of the body. So that was really important. It's really big. I mean, this tail is probably 23 feet long, and I think the weight of the tail is probably around 15 or 1600 pounds in stainless steel. So this will be the first piece that we install. The body will stand like that on the concrete and get anchored to the concrete, and then we'll rig the tail with the crane and lift the tail into place, and I'll be inside the body, and I'll bolt the tail on from inside. And then I'll probably come down from the front and go around and climb up the front, and we'll have the front section rigged up, and I'll be inside the body again, and they'll swing the front section into me, and I will bolt it from the inside. And then up inside there's a hatch, and I'll climb out of the hatch, and the sculpture at that point will be done, and I'll screw the hatch down to the top, and we'll have a completed installation. So that's a wrap on the T-Rex, guys. This is the last time you'll see it in my shop disassembled. So tomorrow morning we're going to be shipping it out, and Michelle and I will be heading to Penticton to install it. And be sure to follow along. We're going to have more videos of our trip up there, our installation, and some good video and pictures once this is finally installed. So thanks for following along with this journey. It's been a 2-year journey, and it's been a long journey, and I know Michelle and I are really looking forward to wrapping this project up and looking forward to the next one. Hopefully you'll come to our channel and see what's cooking next.